You are not the person who gives to be remembered. You are the soul who remembers, and that remembering is eternal. The wound is where the light enters you. Rumi did not write these words as poetry. He wrote them as a warning and a promise, because you cannot love deeply without first being broken open, and you cannot be broken open without first loving something that was never meant to stay. We are raised in a world that tells us to fear pain, to avoid loss, to run from grief like it's a disease. But the mystics knew better. They knew that pain is the door to transformation, and love, true love, is not what comes without suffering. It's what survives it. The dance between pain and love is not a tragedy. It's a ceremony, a sacred spiral that every soul must step into if it ever wants to become real. Rumi called it a dance for a reason. Because pain and love are not enemies. They are partners. One turns you toward the other. Pain softens your armor. Love sharpens your vision. And together they teach you what it means to be alive. But most people, they only want half the song. They want love without the loss, joy without the ache, beauty without the blood. They want the rose, but not its thorns. They want the fire, but not the burn. And so they live in numbness, in half-life, in polite, performative connections where nothing ever gets too deep, too raw, too real. Because to go that deep would mean risking everything. And most people would rather stay safe than surrender. But you're not most people. You've tasted something in pain that others missed. You've seen something inside heartbreak that others looked away from. You've learned that there is a kind of pain that does not destroy but refines, a kind of grief that carves the soul into something sacred. Rumi knew this well. He lost his teacher, his twin flame, his soul mirror Shams of Tabriz, and in that loss, something opened in him that would never close again. He didn't run from the grief. He didn't bury it under distractions or drown it in pleasure. He danced with it. He turned his mourning into music. He let the ache become his altar. Because the deeper the sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. That's the law of opposites, the law of divine polarity. The same force that rips you open is the one that makes you vast enough to hold more. More love, more beauty, more truth. You are not here to be untouched. You are here to be transformed. And transformation doesn't come gently. It comes with fire. It comes with silence that feels like exile. It comes with losses that feel like death. But the mystics, they smiled at this because they knew the soul doesn't grow through comfort. It grows through contact with pain, with paradox, with the parts of ourselves we've tried so hard to hide. When you love deeply and lose, when you give fully and are left, when you open and are wounded, don't curse the pain. Bow to it, because pain is the proof that your heart was open, that you were brave enough to feel something real in a world addicted to numbness. Pain means you loved, and love, real love, is never wasted, even if it breaks, even if it's betrayed, even if it disappears, because love is never about possession. It's about expansion, about letting another soul rearrange your universe, about becoming more than you were before they touched you. And if they leave, then so be it. They've done their work. Now you must do yours. You must stay with what they left behind. The emptiness, the ache, the echo, because within that echo is the map, the divine code, the sacred wound that will lead you deeper into your own becoming. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it breaks you. But breakage is not the end. It is the beginning. In Jungian terms, it is the call to individuation to become whole by integrating the very parts of you that pain exposed. You don't run from this dance. You enter it consciously. You say yes to the spiral, yes to the unraveling, yes to the sacred descent. Because this descent is how you rise, not with ego, but with soul. You stop chasing love that doesn't honor your depths. You stop settling for safety over truth. You stop begging for crumbs when you were born to be a feast. And instead, you become the kind of person who holds pain and love in the same palm, who doesn't collapse when hurt, but opens wider, who doesn't harden after heartbreak, but softens deeper. This is the warrior path of the mystic, the paradox of divine strength, to stay open when the world gives you every reason to close, to love again, not because you forgot the pain, but because you remembered who you are beneath it. Pain humbles you, love resurrects you, and the dance between the two is where your soul becomes visible. So dance, not around it, through it. Let the music of your suffering become the rhythm of your transformation. Let the ache in your chest become the doorway to your freedom. Let love, not as fantasy, but as fire, become the force that remakes you from the inside out. This is the path Rumi walked. This is the path that calls you now, to bleed beauty, to ache awake, to turn pain into poetry, and to let every heartbreak become holy. Because in the heartbreak is your opening, and in the opening is your initiation. There is a moment, after the crying stops, after the pleading fades, after the silence finally settles, where you are left alone with yourself, no distractions, no illusions, just you and what's left. And in that moment, something miraculous happens. Not loud, not cinematic, quiet, subtle, sacred. You realize you're still here, still breathing, still witnessing, still capable of feeling. And that, right there, is where you begin again, not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to become. The pain didn't end you, it unveiled you. The parts you abandoned to be loved, the parts you silenced to be accepted, the pieces of your soul you scattered to be chosen, they start whispering back. And they don't want revenge. They want reunion. This is where the true love story begins, not between you and another, but between you and your own soul. Because the greatest romance is the one where you stop ghosting yourself. You stop betraying yourself for the sake of harmony. You stop shrinking your truth to avoid loneliness. You stop ignoring the ache just to keep others comfortable. And instead, you sit with it. You hold space for your grief like a sacred guest. You ask your pain what it wants to show you, and you listen, not with your ears, but with your entire being. This is what the Sufis called remembrance. Sikra, not of God as something external, but of your own divine essence. You remember that love is not something you find. It's something you return to, again and again, not in someone's arms, but in the arms of your own presence. You become the love you were searching for. And not in theory, in practice, in how you speak to yourself, in how you hold your boundaries, in how you walk away from what wounds you, even when it hurts. Because love, real love, begins with your no. Your sacred no to anything that dishonors your depth. Your no to the false versions of connection. Your no to staying small for the comfort of others. That no is not rejection. It is redirection, back toward the truth. And from that truth, your yes emerges. Your yes to life, your yes to joy, your yes to mystery, to beauty, to the terrifying vulnerability of feeling it all. Because you're not here to feel halfway. You're not here to live numb, to love safe, to die slowly behind a mask of fine. You are here to shatter, and then to shine, to fall to your knees in surrender, and then to rise in devotion, to be cracked wide open until love pours through you, not as possession, but as presence. And what you learn, what all mystics eventually learn, is that the heartbreak was never the end of love. It was the beginning of it. Because now, when you love, it's not out of need. It's out of overflow. You've stopped trying to extract worth from others. You no longer confuse attachment with connection. You've broken the contract that said, if you hurt me, I'll abandon myself. You don't do that anymore. You stay. Not for them, for you. You stay with yourself through every storm, through the loneliness, through the ache, through the nights where your chest feels like it's caving in. You become the lover that never leaves. And in doing so, something shifts. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop performing. You start radiating. Your energy changes. Your presence deepens. Because now you carry the weight of someone who has died and come back. Of someone who has lost everything, then realized they were everything they needed all along. You've become holy ground. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. You've wept on the floor and still stood back up. You've watched yourself break and chose to love the pieces. You've known the sting of absence and still chose to give. And that willingness to love again after devastation, that is divinity. That is God inside the human. That is what Rumi meant when he said, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." Because your pain is not just a wound. It is a womb where something ancient is being reborn in you. Let it. Let it strip you of who you thought you had to be. Let it humble you, unravel you, rewire you. And when it's done, let it teach you how to love not with fear, not with control, but with surrender. Because when you dance with both pain and love as partners, not enemies, you stop seeking the light and you become it. You become it not in moments of perfection, but in the aftermath of chaos. You become it when you are bent, but do not break. When you are emptied, but do not curse the hollow. When you are forgotten, and yet you still remember who you are. That is when the light awakens inside you, not a borrowed light, not a filtered light, but your own, ancient, luminous, untouched by opinion, untainted by past. The light that says, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become in spite of it." This is not about healing into the version of yourself that existed before the pain. That self is gone. That self was supposed to die. This is about who you become in the ashes. The phoenix, the rebirth, the evolution that could only come through loss. You are no longer searching for completion in someone else. You are no longer asking to be rescued. You are no longer outsourcing your joy, your peace, your purpose. You are no longer confusing chemistry for destiny. You've stopped mistaking being triggered for being in love. You've stopped calling your trauma patterns fate. Because now you see, love without awareness is addiction, but love with awareness is liberation. You've loved blindly before. You've given everything, only to watch it slip through fingers trembling with hope. You've begged silence to speak. You've tried to earn what was never meant for you. And every time, the universe whispered not as punishment, but as precision. Let it go. There is something more. And you fought that message. You raged against it. You cursed the sky and clutched the pieces of what you once called love. But eventually, you obeyed. You let go not with bitterness, but with reverence. You released the illusion, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for yourself. And that moment, that silent surrender, that was when the real healing began. Because healing isn't about never hurting again. It's about loving yourself through the hurt so deeply that it loses its power to define you. Now, the ache comes and you no longer run. You sit with it. You ask, "What are you here to teach me?" And the pain becomes your guru. The heartbreak becomes your oracle. The loss becomes your lens. You stop needing others to behave a certain way for you to be at peace. You stop trying to control what was never yours to hold. You stop demanding love be a fortress when it was always meant to be a flow. Because love, true love, isn't possession. It's presence. It doesn't bind. It beholds. It doesn't cling. It reveres. It doesn't save you. It sees you. And you've seen yourself now through pain, through loss, through unbearable vulnerability. You've stood naked in your truth. And you didn't die. You rose, not harder, softer, not colder, clearer, not detached, devoted to what is real, to what is whole, to what is holy. You understand now. The ones who broke you were not enemies. They were mirrors, carriers of the lessons your soul came here to learn. They were not the path. They were the push. And you blessed them for it, not because they were kind, but because they were necessary. You don't need an apology anymore. You don't need the closure. You don't need the explanation. You've made peace with the silence. You've turned pain into prayer. You've made a temple out of your grief. And now every breath is sacred. Every heartbeat is a hymn. Every tear that once fell in the dark is now light on your skin because you stayed. You didn't abandon yourself when it got hard. You didn't abandon yourself when they did. You didn't abandon yourself when everything in you wanted to disappear. You stayed. And now you shine. Not because life is perfect, but because you are present, because you no longer run from your own depth, because you have walked the longest road there is from seeking love outside to finding it within. You are not finished. You are just beginning. You are not healed. You are healing. You are not invincible. But you are no longer afraid of being seen, being known, being cracked open by beauty or broken by truth. You are here, and that is enough. You are the dance between pain and love. You are the wound and the wonder, the ache and the answer, the silence and the song. And now that you know, live like it. Walk the earth like it. Speak with the clarity of one who has suffered and still says, I choose love. Not because it's easy, but because it's eternal. And this choice to love again, to stay soft in a world that hardens everything it touches, is not weakness. It is the fiercest rebellion. Because when you choose love after devastation, after betrayal, after abandonment, you are not choosing naivety, you are choosing resurrection. You are choosing to rise not as you were, but as something entirely new, something forged by fire, tempered by grief, sculpted by silence. This is not the love that waits for conditions to be perfect. This is not the love that needs guarantees. This is not the love that performs, manipulates, or clings. This is the love that sees clearly and stays anyway. The kind of love that Rumi wrote of. A love that cannot be lost because it was never borrowed. A love that does not arrive from outside, but is awakened from within. A love that asks nothing but your complete surrender to what already lives inside you. So you stop asking if someone else will love you the way you deserve. You start asking, am I loving myself the way I deserve? And then, slowly, you begin. You touch your own wounds with reverence. You speak to your own soul with kindness. You stop punishing yourself for not being what they needed. You stop abandoning yourself to be chosen. You stop apologizing for being deep, intense, or wide open. Because now you understand your depth is not a liability. It's your superpower. The ones who couldn't handle your depths were not wrong. They were just not ready. Not built for the gravity of your presence. And that is not your shame to carry. You were never too much. They were simply not enough to hold what you bring. So you stop shrinking. You stop silencing. You stop performing. You begin to live as if your truth is holy. Because it island, you begin to speak with conviction, to move with certainty, to honor your yes with fire, to protect your no with steel, not from ego, but from sacred self-awareness. Because when you finally see who you are truly, nakedly, gloriously, you refuse to negotiate that truth for anyone. Not for love, not for attention, not for belonging. You belong to yourself now. And that is not loneliness. That is sovereignty. You walk the path now not to be found, but to be remembered. To become so grounded in your own soul that nothing external can uproot you. Not rejection, not betrayal, not loss. You do not chase love. You attract it through your embodiment. You do not beg for connection. You radiate it through your clarity. You do not explain your worth. You express it in how you breathe, how you walk, how you remain whole in a world addicted to halves. This is the Rumi way, the mystic way, to be shattered by beauty, broken by longing, pierced by presence, and still choose to love deeper. To sit in the ruins of a past self, look up at the stars bleeding through the cracks, and whisper, more, more life, more love, more soul, not less, not smaller, not safer, more. You become unafraid of pain, not because it no longer hurts, but because you've made peace with its purpose. It is the chisel, the mirror, the teacher, and you no longer resist the lesson. You receive it, you bow to it, and then you rise with it inside your bones. So now, when love comes again, and it will, you are ready. Not desperate, not addicted, ready. Ready to receive, not consume. Ready to give, not prove. Ready to share, not surrender yourself. And if that love leaves again, you'll mourn, you'll weep, but you won't collapse, because you're no longer building homes inside people. You've built one inside yourself, and it's warm, and it's wild, and it welcomes all of you, the broken, the brilliant, the becoming, because you no longer see your pain as a mistake. You see it as a map. You follow it not back into suffering, but forward into wholeness. And in that wholeness, you are finally free, not untouchable, but unshakable, not invulnerable, but fully alive. And that aliveness is the gift. That is what it means to dance between pain and love, not to be spared from either, but to be so open to both that you become a bridge between heaven and earth. You are not here to avoid the storm. You are here to become the sky. And so you stand now, not as the person who never fell, but as the one who kept rising. You are no longer waiting for someone to rescue you from the ache, from the void, from the silence. You have sat with it. You have danced in it. You have become fluent in its language. And now you carry a power that no one gave you because no one could. It was forged in the moments no one saw, in the tears that fell with no witness, in the prayers whispered into a darkness that didn't answer but listened. You are no longer asking, why did it hurt? You are asking, what did it awaken? Because now you know the pain was not punishment. It was preparation. It broke the shell, but not the soul. It dissolved the illusion, but not the essence. It stripped away what was never real to reveal what always was. And in that revelation you met yourself, raw, radiant, reborn. You've become the flame and the ashes, the question and the answer, the ache and the healing. And when people ask you how you became so calm, so clear, so powerful, you will not give them a 10-step method. You will not sell them a shortcut. You will look into their eyes and say, I stopped running. Dablift. I stopped betraying myself. I made love with my pain until it turned to light. Because that's what this path, island, not a straight line, not a clean escape, but a sacred spiral, back to your heart, back to your truth, back to the original fire within you that knew even before the world told you otherwise, that you were meant for something more than survival. You were meant for love, but not the kind that fills your emptiness, the kind that overflows from your fullness. So now you love without chains, you walk without fear, you speak without apology. You hold your own hand in the dark and know this is enough. You are enough. You have always been enough. You just needed to lose the world to find yourself. And now that you have, you are no longer the one searching for the light. You are the one who is the light. And from this place, you love, you live, you lead. And above all, you remain.